Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 32nd edition of Guru Manthan. Guru Manthan is being hosted by the Vivekananda Institute for Leadership Development, a unit of the Swami Vivekananda Youth Movement. Our mission is to develop human and social capital and towards building a resurgent India. We work towards enhancing the potential of individuals and institutions across the development sector, which includes the governments, the NGOs, corporates, and the community. And we do work with a large number of youth. This particular series started on 1st of August. So every Saturday, we meet with an educationist or a practitioner or a policymaker to discuss, debate, and learn from diverse experiences as well as perspectives in the field of education. They aim to be a series of 50 lectures, starting with Dr. Gururaj Karjigi, Professor M.K. Sridhar, Mr. Anurag Beher, Mr. T.S. Krishnamurthy, the former Chief Election Commissioner. We did have Dr. Kasturi Rangan, Mr. Anil Swarup, the former MHRD Secretary, and Dr. Ananta, uh, and so on. So we have so far had 31 weeks of ideas being discussed and experiences being shared. Today, we have with us a very interesting person, Mr. R. Ramanan, who is the mission director of the Atal Innovation Mission in the rank of the additional secretary to the government of India. Mr. Ramanan comes from a very different background, if I may say. He was in the corporate sector in the company of Tata Consultancy Services for close to 40 years now. After graduating from the Indian Institute of Bombay, he has worked in the TCS and now with the government in a slightly different role. He's basically spearheading the entire Atal Innovation Mission, and a very famous component of this is the Atal Tinkering Labs, which is now visible in several schools across India. Today, he is with us talking about fostering innovation and entrepreneurship in the youth of our nation, and through a holistic approach from the schools to the universities. It's a privilege to have you here, sir. Welcome to the Guru Manthan platform. Uh, we would be having 25 minutes of opening remarks from you, and then moderated Q&A session. I also welcome all the audience who join us week in and week out, and looking forward for a very insightful session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Praveen. And first of all, my greetings to everybody who's logged onto the call from the Swami Vivekananda Youth Movement. It is indeed a pleasure and a privilege for me to be able to spend a few moments deliberating with you all together on a topic that I think is very, very important for our nation and particularly for the youth of our nation. It's also a topic that I passionately follow through the Atal Innovation Mission and throughout my working career. And I think it's very important because we are at a very, very interesting position in the history of our country, and I would also say in the history of the world, where we as a country and we as the young people of the country, and of which you all form a very important part, have a tremendous opportunity to be the change makers that the world wants to see. Mahatma Gandhi very famously said, be the change that you want to see. We want to see a lot of change in the world, change for the better. But that is only possible if we are able to ensure that all of us are meeting the challenges of tomorrow with the technologies and the solutions and the possibilities of innovations of tomorrow. And therefore, the topic is most appropriate. How do we ensure we foster innovation and entrepreneurship among the youth of our country, not just from their own personal point of view? It is very important, of course, that every one of you personally benefits through the journey of innovation and through the journey of entrepreneurship. But I think the bigger cause and the more nobler cause is how can we benefit the world? How can we create, as Steve Jobs said, a ding in the universe? We all want to leave a ding in the universe. We want to create an impact through our lives, an impact that will resonate not only in your lifetime, but for the generations to come. So you, my dear young students, are the architects of the new India that we are all seeking to establish and of the new world order. And nothing encapsulates it better than Swami Vivekananda's sayings in this context. He said that you have to dream big, dare to dream and dream to dare, dare to take on the challenges that the world poses. And if you have great faith in yourself, you will be assured of success. He said, if you have a belief in 1,000 gods and goddesses, but do not have belief in yourself, you're doomed. And that is very important for every one of us who are part of the youth movement, or not only for the youth movement, even in the adults. This feeling and this tremendous belief in yourself and the ability for you to transform the world as an innovator, as a potential job creator, as a person who is going to be a change maker for the world is so very important and so very real. Now, let me share a little bit about what the Atal Innovation Mission is doing and why it is doing all of that. We are, after all, a country of 1.3 billion people, but we enjoy what is known as the demographic dividend. That is, more than 65% of our country is under 35 years old. We have the youthful, energetic workforce that the rest of the world envies. They would like to have a similar workforce that we have. They would like to have this potential of this tremendous energy, this exuberance, this enthusiasm that only youth can have, and they can take their imaginations into reality. The youth of our country, the children, all of them have tremendous imagination. When you started off in your school career, when you started off on your college career, when you start off in the university, and when you start off to work, you are filled with inspiration. You are filled with energy. You are filled with the possibilities of achieving the impossible. That is your dream and that is your capability. But how do you make this happen in reality? So we have this demographic dividend, which is a tremendous advantage, and we have to transform this demographic dividend into a powerful force that can carry our nation forward into a land of social well-being, social healthiness, as well as economic prosperity. The second most important thing in all of this is that we are living in an economy that is one of the fastest growing economies of the world. India is one of the fastest growing economies of the world. And that is very important, because only when you have a fast growing economy can you talk about innovation, and you can talk about entrepreneurship, and you can support them. Without that, it becomes very difficult to allow your entrepreneurial dreams to find fulfillment. You need venture capital support, you need the educational support, you need access to technology labs, research labs, you need mentoring support, you need the support of the industry. And that is possible in a fast growing economy. So we are, barring the COVID-19 crisis, one of the fastest growing economies of the world. The third is we are living in a world that is technologically changing rapidly. Technology is becoming advanced, affordable, accessible, and available. 3D printing is revolutionizing the way you are able to conceptualize, define, prototype, manufacture a product right in front of your eyes. Now that's a great thing from your small Kirana store, from your small MSME organization, or even from the confines of your home. You can use a 3D printer, which is affordable today, and create products and create services from that machine, which is available to you. Robotics is driving the next level of automation and productivity. Sensor technologies like IoT are being integrated into man, machine, device, soil, space, so that you are now having vast amounts of data coming from various elements, whether it is from the soil so that the farmer can be helped, whether it is from human beings where you can implant devices and it can give you valuable information about the beating of your heart, the pulse rate, wearable technologies and bio-wearable technologies and so on. Whether it is a plant machinery so that you can immediately not only foretell when this plant is going to fail, but you can detect failures and you can fix them remotely. So sensor technologies are being integrated into everything, whether it is into a space shuttle so that you are able to do imaging technologies and also are able to process them at very high speeds. And then you have 5G communication technologies, which is allowing large amounts of data to be speedily sent across from plant to plant, from machine to machine, from one end of the earth to the other end at lightning speeds. And that is revolutionizing the way you are now able to collect all this data and transmit these large volumes of data so that you can act upon them. And then you have technologies like supercomputing and nanocomputing, which is now fitting into the size of your pocket. So you are having the ability to process this data through big data analytics, through data mining, and through powerful algorithms so that you can make sense out of this data and you're able to now act upon this data in a meaningful, constructive manner. So technology is not only providing you the ability of creating amazing innovations, for solving every problem that you are seeing right now in and around the world and future problems, but it is also allowing you to be able to create new business models with which you are able to implement and have the impact of innovation across various parts of the world. From Sikkim to San Francisco, from Salem to Seattle, from Jodhpur to Japan, you can create a product or a service from these places and have them available to any part of the globe. That's the digital revolution and the digital transformation that is happening. It is because of that that you and me are today conversing on this particular platform. And we are able to talk to each other and we are able to see how we can communicate and learn from each other. So these are all the things, the convergence of a demographic dividend that we have, the convergence of a fast growing economy barring the COVID-19 crisis, and the convergence of advancing available and affordable technology is enabling us to create possibilities and allow your imagination, your creativity to find expression through an entrepreneurial organization or through a startup. And that is why the Atal Innovation Mission has been formed, to ensure that you can create and promote an ecosystem of a vibrant ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship spanning the length and breadth of a country. So towards this end, it has taken a very holistic approach. Now, what do I mean by a holistic approach? You cannot become an entrepreneur or you cannot become an innovator just by imagining that I want to become an innovator. You have to create the culture of innovation, a problem solving, innovative mindset right from the school level when you're young. You see, our educational systems have been focusing on rote learning. And rote learning has not been bad so far. It has actually created tremendous positive dividends for our country. After all, because of the focus of education, we have 1.4 million schools in our country. We have 10,500 engineering and related institutions. We have 39,000 colleges. We have 150 million young students entering into the workplace because of this tremendous emphasis that we have laid, Indian families have laid on education. But what has been happening is we have formed a very strong bias towards rote learning. And rote learning just encourages you to get good marks, get into a good university, get good marks again, go to a university abroad and get good marks again and join some large company, whether it is a Google or the Facebook or TCS or Wipro or Infosys and so on. So we have used education to our advantage to become great job seekers. And that is good. After all, $190 billion ITS industry has sprung out of this focus. And we are known among the leading leading countries in the world in terms of knowledge capital. But what brought us here so far is not going to take us further. What we need is our country and our nation should become a nation of job creators. That's where 1.3 billion people and the challenges of India are going to be met. And what are the challenges? The challenges are many. We have 22% of our country still below the poverty line. We have 44% of our country which is agri-economy based. We have 715 districts in our country, out of which 115 are called aspirational districts. Why are they called aspirational districts? Because they're at the bottom of the pyramid and they're aspiring to become better. They're not having basic access to healthcare, education, clean drinking water, sanitation, waste management, affordable housing. These are all the problems, access to lives and livelihoods. We have 4,000 small towns and cities in our country, and we have 650,000 villages. But we have only 8 tier 1 cities. And that is why you see this huge migration problem. You see everybody from our remote districts, our coastal districts, our hilly districts, our tribal districts, from the non-tier 1 cities, from the tier 2, tier 3 cities, are trying to flock to tier 1 cities and to be able to find their lives and livelihoods. Now, that's not a sustainable proposition for India, nor is it a sustainable proposition for the world. So we need to ensure that we address these challenges And in order to address these challenges, we need innovators and job creators of the future. And you are the answer. You have the capability to become the innovators and job creators because of the reasons that I said, that we are a fast growing economy, we have the demographic dividend, we have an educational system which is very strong, and we have technology which is becoming affordable, accessible, available, and advanced. And so when you put all these things together, you have all the ingredients to become successful in your innovation and entrepreneurship. And so the Atal Innovation Mission has launched at the school level thousands of tinkering labs, which are dedicated innovation workspaces where the latest of technologies like 3D printers, robotics, IoT devices, miniaturized electronics, augmented virtual reality are being made available to young students in schools between grade 6 to grade 12. They have a chance to tinker with them, play with them in an atmosphere of fun and learning. They are not tied with marks in an exam. Nobody is being judged here by how many innovations, I can give you so many marks for so many innovations. No. What we want is for them to just get familiar with the technologies of tomorrow, because the solutions of tomorrow are going to be based upon the technologies that are evolving. And these are the technologies. Artificial intelligence is now becoming mainstream. We were talking of artificial intelligence 50 years back, not now. But it never made sense at that time because you didn't have the ability to create data, the ability to process data, and the ability to consume data. And when you don't have that ability, you don't have artificial intelligence making a lot of sense. But today, because of these tremendous advances in computing, communications, sensor technologies, and software algorithms, we are now able to process all this data and be able to take decisions. And therefore, AI, blockchain are becoming reality. Now, the second thing is, we have launched about 10,000 Atal Tinkering Labs across the 680 districts of our country, and the remaining districts will also be soon having Atal Tinkering Labs. But what is very important is we are creating this culture of innovation. We are creating a problem-solving, innovative mindset in the young students of our country, so that we are moving away from the rote learning mindset that they have been used to. They will become the innovators and job creators of tomorrow. They are no longer, when they are innovating today, they are creating prototype of innovations for problems they see in and around the community they live in. So they're not solving problems in an abstract manner. They go out to the community. They go to the nearest hospital. They go to the nearest playground. They go to the nearest, mall. They see what are the problems that people encounter in all these places. Problems of health or hygiene or climate or emission or the ability, the fog that is coming. All of these are problems that they see. And when they see, they start creating solutions. They start defining solutions. And when they start defining solutions, we induct them into sustainable development goals awareness. Any innovation that you do using these technologies should be aligned with sustainable development goals. So the young children in the school are getting awareness of what sustainable development goals are. Now, many of us, you and me, did not know about SDGs. We did not know about innovation. Even when we went into college, nobody talked about it. But today, the young students are being taught and being inducted into a culture of innovation. And so we are going to have a tremendous future with so many thousands of Abdul Kalams and thousands of Satya Nadellas blooming out of our student community in the schools. Now, when they go to the universities, what happens? We are launching hundreds of incubators, and they are world-class incubators called Atal incubators. Why do you need an incubator? Because in a startup's life cycle, you have various valleys of death. When you start a startup, you need access to the mentoring support, the venture capital support, the technology support, the research support, the HR support, internal system support, and so on. And it's not possible for a startup to afford all of this. So through our world-class incubators, where we give a grant of up to 10 crores to every incubator that is being set up, these startups have an ability to realize their dream. And they are supported for a period of 2 years. Early stage startups are the ones which find it difficult normally to be able to be supported. And that's why many talented students like you do not venture into startups, because you say, oh, it is too risky. But by having these incubators and by having venture capital being aware, we can become, every one of you can engage into becoming a startup or an entrepreneur. You could be a livelihood entrepreneur, you could be a deep tech startup, or you could be a combination of the two. It doesn't matter. You could be a social innovator, you could be a social startup, you could be a social entrepreneur, you could be and all of these possibilities exist in our Atal incubators. Today we have 68 incubators which have been implemented just in the last 3 years. And what has come out of these 68 incubators? 1900 startups have sprung into existence just in last 2-3 years. And what is more heartening is 575 of them are women-led startups. So there is a great opportunity for women today. 575 out of 1900 means more than 33%. In India, unfortunately, we have only 13% women entrepreneurs overall. So that means 87% of the entrepreneurs are men. Now that's clearly a bias and a prejudice that needs to be, and a gap that needs to be filled, because we have a tremendous opportunity for women to contribute as well, if not more, than all the men entrepreneurs. In 70% of our Atal Tinkering Labs, they are in girls and co-ed schools. 70% of them are government-aided schools. And 33% of our startups today are women-led startups. We want this to become 50% because according to our census, more than 49% of the population is women, and more than 49% of the demographic dividend is women. So these incubators are producing startups. India is a startup nation. It is one of the fastest growing startup nations of the world. We have more than 50,000 startups today in India. So every one of you has that ability and should become an entrepreneur, should become a startup. Now, when you are going and creating these startups, it is very important for us to address that pillar of socio-economic progress that the Honorable Prime Minister talks about in Atmanirbhar Bharat. And what does he mean by that? He means that we have digital divides, we have socio-economic divides, we have the divide between the haves and the have-not. And as the great Swami Vivekananda said, he said, if you don't take care of the community, you're not doing anything worthwhile in your life. You have to ensure that the community progresses. So in order to spur and create local hubs of innovation and job creation in tier 2, tier 3 cities, in rural India, in tribal India, or in coastal India, we are setting up what are known as Atal Community Innovation Centers. These community innovation centers would help spur local innovation, community-centric innovation, and local job creation. Let me give you an example. If you're in Goa, then you have a fishing industry, you have a tourism industry, you have a mining industry, you have a shipbuilding industry, and you have a cashew nut industry. How do you spur innovation to boost these industries? That is important. And when you boost that, then the local people get local jobs being created, and therefore you are spurring community-centric innovation across the length and breadth of our country. We have already set up 25 Atal Community Innovation Centers, and before the end of the next few years, we are planning to have at least 3 or 4 community innovation centers as hub community innovation centers in every state of the country. And these hubs will be connected to various spokes. What we need is the 4,000 small towns and cities that we have. Every one of them should become a hub of innovation and job creation. Then only we will prevent this migrant problem. We will create a uniform environment for India to develop in a very holistic manner. Now, you have Atal Tinkering Labs creating innovative spirit at the school level. We have Atal Incubators encouraging and establishing the ecosystem of entrepreneurship for startups at the university level or at the institutional level. And we have Atal Community Innovation Centers, which are ensuring that the benefits of innovation reach the local, remote, rural masses of our country. But we also need to ensure that we identify the challenges and the opportunities that we have along with the ministry, so that when the startups create a solution, they have a particular direction in which where is the maximum value and where is the maximum need. As the Honorable Prime Minister said, another pillar of the Atmanirbhar Bharat is the pillar of demand. So we need to ensure that this pillar of demand, which is of renewable energies, of affordable housing, of clean drinking water and sanitation, of transportation, of a biotech industry, of healthcare, of education, remote education, all of these are enabled through challenges. So we launch a series of challenges called Atal New India Challenges and Arise Challenges. Arise Challenges are meant for the MSME industry because 70% of our labor force is associated with the MSME, informal and formal labor force. But MSME industry only contributes 29% of our GDP. We need to ensure that this goes up to 50%. Now, if that goes up to 50%, then imagine the productivity and the GDP growth and the economic growth of our country. Not only is there economic growth, but there is social growth. because this is possible only if when you're supporting the MSME industry, or MSME industry is distributed all across the country. So you're having uniform growth of the country and the nation because of this encouragement. So Atal New India challenges in the ARISE challenge. ARISE stands for Applied Research and Innovation for Small Enterprises. These challenges are enabling the creation of products and services that will have national impact. India is a country of 1 billion people with 1 million challenges. But 1 million challenges, my dear students, and all those who have logged on, are 1 million opportunities for the young entrepreneurs of India. We don't have to look to the outside world. We don't have to go abroad in order to make money or to create fame or to become a startup. You have the opportunity right here in India. India is attracting a lot of companies all across the world to come here because that's the demand, the pillar of demand, the pillar of infrastructure. We want to set up world-class infrastructure in India. That means smart infrastructure, smart villages, smart districts, smart housing. You need technology to be able to create this smart infrastructure. And not only you want to create a smart infrastructure, but you also want to power them with digital infrastructure so that the power of your innovation reaches the remotest parts of the world. When you have infrastructure which is smart in a particular village or a particular district, and you have local products being created. Let's say, for example, you are creating some products, crafts, tribal crafts in Sikkim or in Jodhpur. How do you ensure that from Sikkim, that your tribal product and your world-class artifact that you're creating can reach across to San Francisco or to Seattle? That is the opportunity. That's why you need the digital infrastructure in addition to the physical infrastructure to enable the industry as well as to reach the service or the product to the distant parts of the globe. The same thing is true from Jodhpur. I mean, wonderful tribal crafts, marble carvings, sculptures, and all of these are possible. And these are something which is unique to India. Everybody comes to India to see all of this stuff. But how do you ensure that this creates a vibrant industry of toys, games, and so on and so forth? And that's why recently the Honorable Prime Minister announced the International Toy Festival in India just last week. And that is because we have such a rich history of toys and stories and mythological stories and so on, that these can become games, computer simulated games. And you can use technologies like augmented reality and virtual reality to be able to simulate many of these stories into games. And those games can become not only educative, but a source of entertainment. So we have all of these opportunities right out there. And you have the opportunity to convert each of these challenges into an entrepreneurial organization, into a startup, and succeed. The world of a startup, many of you will think, oh, it's too risky. Why don't I just go into a job? But in the world of a startup, and you can say that I can fail as a startup. But remember that once you start on your innovation journey, there is no failure. There is only, as the great Abdul Kalam said, the first attempt in learning. Fail is the first attempt in learning. You have only a success or you have a first attempt in learning. Every failure, or what you consider as a failure, is a stepping stone for success. As the great Swami Vivekananda said, one should take risks. If you don't take risks, you will not be able to achieve anything. But be bold, have belief in yourself that you will be able to overcome that risk, and automatically there is tremendous strength in you, the power in you. As he says, all the powers of the universe are within you. But if you close your eyes and say that it is dark, the world is dark for you. But you remove the hands from your eyes and suddenly you see the world and everything is bright and you are able to see the solutions right in front of you. So my dear friends and all of us who are gathered today, this is the time, this is a watershed moment in our history. This is the watershed moment where we can plunge into a world of science, development, technology, innovation, entrepreneurship, and succeed. And we all have to dream big. As the great Abdul Kalam said, dream big and you'll achieve great things. Dream small and you'll be limited by your own dreams. So let us all dream big and let us ensure that we are able to achieve those dreams. Let us not dream small. Every one of you should be filled with a large dream. Dare to dream to dare. And when you do that, with extraordinary belief in yourself and confidence in yourself, follow it up with an action plan. An action plan that is very detailed, because it is not enough to dream and it's not enough to have belief in yourself, but you need to have an action plan that you drive, which you are motivated to, in the cause that you are dedicated to. You don't need to be a technologist to solve the problems of the world. Please remember, you need to know how to leverage technology, but you need to be a problem solver, because technology will keep changing. New technologies will keep coming, but the problems are the same. And you become an innovator when you first start the curiosity in you to look at the world around you and to see what are the problems that exist, or problems that you anticipate. Problems like climate change is something that you anticipate. Problems because of artificial intelligence you anticipate. So when you anticipate problems or you see a problem, you then step on to acquiring knowledge about how can I solve this problem. And when you acquire that knowledge, that leads on to imagination, and it leads on to creativity. And from creativity comes the germ of an idea. And that idea can convert itself into an innovation, an innovation that can create an impact upon the rest of the world, that can leave a ding in the universe, as Steve Jobs said. And we all, as a country, will achieve the Atmanirbhar Bharat of our dreams. As the great Swami Vivekananda said, arise, arise to the opportunities and the challenges that are there in front of you. Awaken that talent, that innovative nature that you have inherent in you. We are all born innovators. You know, nobody taught us to walk. You saw the world around you. You saw everybody standing. So you decided to stand when you were little, when you were very small, and then you fell down, stood up again, you fell down again. But every time you stood, you innovated. And because you innovated, you learned how to walk, and you learned how to run, and you learned how to participate in races. You learned how to participate in gymnasiums. You learned how to become the Usain Bolt of the world in National Olympics. That's all because you have the power to innovate every moment of the time. And then you didn't know how to speak. You saw the world around you. You saw lips moving. You saw sounds coming out. You say, hey, why not me try that out? Nobody could talk to you because you didn't understand their language. They didn't understand your language, but soon you started talking. That is the human power, the power of intelligence, the power of innovation. How do you tap into that? Somewhere along, as we study and as we grow up, we start thinking that we cannot innovate. We cannot be innovators. We cannot be entrepreneurs. And somewhere our educational system limits our thinking. But remove those shackles, throw it down, break it down, and then suddenly the world. And as the great Swami Vivekananda said, you know, remove the hands from over your eyes, and suddenly you find it is no longer dark. You know, it is very bright. And so awaken that particular talent, inherent talent that is within you. And finally, stop not till your goals are reached. Our goal is to create an Atmanirbhar Bharat that is not only self-resilient, but also a source of great help to the rest of the world. It is not a selfish Bharat that we are talking about. We are talking about a selfless Bharat, where we always talk about Vasudhaiva Kutumbam. As in the COVID-19 crisis, which has struck the world and disrupted supply chains and created a lot of panic, India has been one of the first countries to come to the rescue for the rest of the world. Even though we have 1.3 billion people and such a large population, we have also been constantly ensuring that our vaccines are going to where countries need it and they are not getting the support. That is what community is all about. And unless we step beyond ourselves to be able to make an impact, as the Swami Vivekananda Youth Movement, I'm sure, has embraced that as its principal goal. How do you help the communities in and around you? If we do that, we will not stop till the goals are reached, and we will be able to assure a better, happy, more progressive, and an economically progressing India. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to share a few thoughts on this occasion.
Thank you, sir. That was very inspiring, and few of the numbers you quoted were truly mind-boggling as well. A couple of questions to start off, and I can see some questions coming in from the audience as well. One of the quotes which the Atal Innovation Mission talks about is actually nurturing the spirit of problem solving, or creating that problem solving mindset among children. Many of our audience here are teachers. So what is this problem solving mindset all about? How do we deconstruct this, and how do we create that mindset in a classroom?
Yeah, no, thank you very much for asking that question. And also the fact that there are so many teachers who are there in the audience. I'm very, very happy about that, because you form the crux of encouraging this curious, innovative spirit in a child. Innovation happens only when you allow the child or in your classroom or in the university to ask questions. If you stop them from asking questions, if you say, hey, don't ask me these questions, or don't allow the curiosity to express itself, even if the question is the dumbest question, or if the question is something that you are not able to answer, you have to give room for questioning. Because as Steve Jobs said, it is, the crazy people, the people who think crazily, they are the people who make progress in this world. Because someone, it was a Galileo, questioned about, whether Earth is the center of the universe. Newton wanted to know why the apple was falling down and not going up. And when you look at all these questions that they are very basic questions that led to great discoveries, that led to great innovations, that led to great impact. So I think this whole, we as teachers, and it has been a cultural thing, as well as, we always think that we have to get good marks, which is important. Getting good marks in an exam is important. But to stimulate this problem solving, innovative thinking mindset, you have to give a space and a zone to the young students to start asking questions and asking them to identify problems. Whether, for example, the student may say, why do I have to switch off the light? Why can't the light go out by itself when I walk out of the room? Now, once the student is asking that question, they are going to look at sensor technologies, they are going to look at electronics and so on and so forth, to be able to make a smart classroom. So you cannot say, oh, it is like this only here, so don't ask me this question. No, you have to encourage that. So problem solving, innovative mindset, teachers have to encourage them to participate in going across, take them in groups outside, to a village, to a mall, to a city, common ground, and tell them, look at what can you identify problems, let them come back and let them form small groups, and then reward the best question or the best problem that was identified, and then tell them, how will you solve this? If you were given a chance to solve it, how will you solve it? So this is what we try to do in Atal Tinkering Labs. We don't give them a specific problem at all. We tell them, these are 8 areas in health. Go and visit a hospital and tell us all the problems that you see. So some students say, people have to wait for a long time, so how can we have an IT system to solve the problem? Some people say that the hygiene problem is there, sanitizing problem is there, etc., etc. It is amazing when you give that room to a young student, the way their imagination works and the way they start questioning, and the freedom to question, the freedom to ask any question, is what triggers innovation.
Thank you, sir. A quick follow-up on your answer. Uh, Nurturing such a problem-solving mindset also needs a particular mindset of the teacher. So is the Atal Innovation Mission doing something in the space of teacher education to create a band of teachers who actually gives such a opportunity for kids to explore?
Yes, very good question. In fact, it's so very important, and you raise the right point. Not only are we looking at teachers, teacher and the principal is very important to be able to create the problem-solving, innovative mindset in the schools. And therefore, we have what is known as an ATL in charge. Every ATL that is set up, every Atal Tinkering Lab that is set up, has a dedicated ATL in charge. And that ATL in charge is trained on inculcating this problem solving, innovative thinking mindset. They are also given training on the technologies that are being deployed there, so that they know how to use these technologies. Because they don't necessarily, we don't expect that the teacher will become an expert on Arduino board and robotics and so on, but they know what robotics is all about, and they know what Arduino boards are capable of doing, and what sensor technologies and IoT is all about. And so we have found all our 8,000, 7,000 Atal Tinkering Labs, all the ATL in charges have been trained on problem solving, innovative thinking, and the do-it-yourself kits. These are do-it-yourself kits. So how to use these do-it-yourself kits. And we have had tremendous, so in order to also fill the gap that the ATL in charge will have in their knowledge, her or his knowledge, we created a mentor pool, a mentors of change. And I was very surprised. We launched a portal asking, we want voluntary mentors of change from the industry. And what did we get? 10,000 mentors registered themselves for voluntarily getting associated with Atal Tinkering Labs, Atal Incubators, Atal Startups. And they are spending 4 to 5 hours every week of their time. And now these mentors of change are so excited about their role of giving back to the society. They are so many of you who are teachers should also become mentors of change to various Atal Tinkering Lab schools, or people from the industry, and they fill that gap because they are experienced. Most of the mentors of change are have a master's degree or a BTech degree or a BE degree, or they have management degrees, or they're working in industries like IBM, TCS, Wipro, and Google, and so on. And they're also associated with our Atal Tinkering Labs and startup. So every school has one or more mentors of change. Every school has an ATL in charge. They all have training programs and training modules. The students have training modules. The teachers have training modules. Recently, in the COVID-19 crisis, we launched digital creativity and digital skills module for teachers and for mentors. We also created app development modules because many teachers don't know what app development is all about. So we created an app development module and conducted training programs on app development for the teachers and for the mentors so that they can help the students answer some questions related to that. So now the second point I want to mention is it is not just teachers who need to be educated, the parents also need to be educated. So we have a forum by which we interact with the parents and we encourage the parents to share their experiences of their children. You see, why many of us didn't become entrepreneurs. First objection you got is from your family. Your father or mother would have said, "Hey, what is wrong with you? You better go and join a job and start earning for yourself," right? How do you change that mindset? That will change only when you see that your child, your son, your daughter is inventive and innovative and they are creating innovation. So we run this Atal Tinkering Marathon and we ensure that parents see the innovation. All the parents are required to see the innovation of their children. That transforms them completely. They say, wow, I didn't know my child can become the next Einstein or can become the next Steve Jobs, right? So that is, so we need to change societal mindset, uh, teacher's mindset, principal mindset, as well as the parents' mindset.
Thank you, sir. Ramesh has a
Uh,
question.
yeah, actually, you answered my question. In fact, I was, going to pose that question about parents
Yeah,
because quite often parents, want to live their dreams through their children often.
exactly, exactly.
So I just want to, play the devil's advocate here and ask you a question. I hope that is okay.
No problem.
Yeah. One of the things you spoke about is that how at the moment, 33% of this one is about. You spoke about the achieving gender parity in terms of this one and about 33%, and you would like to move it to 50%. Uh, the, the the question that I want to ask is, in doing that, I understand if we fix the, look at flattening opportunities. But in a sense, by trying to fix the at the level of the outcomes, do we run the risk of actually not losing out focus on merit? Is that a challenge at all that you
No,
think?
no, no, no. So you're right. The idea is not to increase the number at the cost of merit. The idea is to give opportunities to the talented and the innovative people within the women field. See, what happens is many women are not becoming entrepreneurs for various reasons. One, you are not, that there are four aspects in entrepreneurship. One is the education. You need to educate many women about the entrepreneurial opportunities that exist. Many of them are not aware, especially in rural India, in tier 2, tier 3 cities. They don't know that there are livelihood entrepreneurship opportunities that they can take. Today with Jam Trinity, which is a billion Jandan accounts, bank accounts, a billion mobile IDs available, mobile phones available, and a billion other IDs. There are many benefits and schemes in terms of financing and in terms of entrepreneurship that women can avail of, and they can become entrepreneurs. So one is the education part. What are the opportunities? Similarly, in the universities and in the schools, when we encourage women students and girl students into innovation, we found in the last Tinkering Marathon, 45% of the winners were girl students in the Tinkering Marathon. Now, when we look at it and look at it a little deeply, we find that there are certain characteristics and certain strengths that women automatically bring to the table, and that is the ability to go into details. Their depth to details is much more, They are able to communicate much better with each other and with others. So seek help and communication. And third is multitasking. The ability to multitask is very high. So when you put all these things together, innovation automatically happens. So we want to encourage that. And then you also want to, so this is the education part. Second is the enablement part. So how do you enable entrepreneurship? Enablement means giving access to platforms like tinkering labs, incubators, and so on. So we have 3 women-led incubators within Atal Innovation Mission. And they're all women-focused startups. So giving a platform like that encourages many women because they see, oh, my peers are doing it. I can also join this. It's a safe environment. I can learn from others. There are, learning from failures is as important as learning from successes. It's not like every time you want to be, learning only from success. So enablement is with the platform. Third is the empowerment. Empowerment is through regulatory policies, incentivizations, and so on. Now, if you don't set, for example, corporates, in many corporates, still the women workforce is very low. And many women, after they get married, they don't get a chance to continue working because of domestic requirements. But if you look at the Tata Group, for example, what they have done is they have started something called second innings. And the second innings for women is the ability for educated, empowered women to work from home and be able to adjust rather than having to come to work every day. There are various ways because of digital technologies and all the technologies which are happening that women can become a very active part in a part-time mode in times when it is available for them to participate in the gig economy that we're talking. So this incentivization is very important. So Tata Group has created a target within the group that we should ensure that at least 40 to 50% of our workforce are women. Otherwise, you don't give them the opportunity, or you start saying, the general tendency is, she can't come to office every day. But you don't need to. This COVID-19 crisis showed you don't need to come to office every day in order to be productive, right? And there are certain areas where you have to come, but in certain areas you can operate from home. And there is also policy enablement at the government level. We need to incentivize policies and make sure that all of those, take for example, safety measures for women when they are working late and so on in the BPO sector. So certain policy measures by corporate and by state in making sure that you're creating safe environments for work and so on and so forth is also very important. So education, empowerment, enablement, and regulatory policies are very important. And finally, celebrate women's successes. That is also very important. If you don't celebrate, people don't know, right, about what they can do. So at no point is a compromise on their innovation or entrepreneurship capability, but it should be based upon merit, but that merit should have the opportunity. That's very important. Yeah.
A question that I'm picking up from the chat box. I think it's to do with the risk involved in entrepreneurial activity. We know that 9 out of 10 entrepreneurial initiatives actually fail.
Yeah.
And many entrepreneurs we also know go into depression and this one. I think the question is, it seems to be easy, at least for people who have a backup, who have a family or some sort of a support. I understand that the incubation lab does provide for the kind of support that is required. But how does someone who comes from, let's say, the margins of society, who's worked his or her way up through educating himself, who's actually looking to get a paycheck every month? So how do we encourage somebody, or how do we explain this whole idea of entrepreneurship to such a person?
So you'll be quite surprised. We have now 68 incubators across the country, right? And they are not in tier. I mean, there are about a couple of, I would say about 20% of them are in tier 1 cities, but the remaining 80% are in tier 2, tier 3 cities. And the appetite for startups and entrepreneurship from these cities, where people who are joining and creating startups are not necessarily the ones who come from affluent families, who have ability to take risk and so on. And why is it? This is why, like I said, India is changing rapidly. There is a lot of venture capital which is looking out for new ideas. India is the startup nation of the world. It's going to be one of the largest startup nations of the world. So this is like, in those days when gold rush was there, people were going to find gold, in California and all these places. the startup world is a world of opportunity today that many people, whether they are in remote parts of the country and so on, are realizing that there is an opportunity because there is a demand, there is a need, right? Now, venture capital and investment capital and the government is also seeing that this is a great opportunity and we need to support them. And therefore, the support capability of being able to support for early stage startups and early stage entrepreneurs is becoming available much more than what it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And therefore, the risk appetite, the risk that a student entrepreneur who has the motivation, it is not everybody is not motivated to become an entrepreneur or an innovator, but anybody who has that idea or the innovation has the ability to tap into this growing economically better ecosystem. And we are creating that ecosystem of entrepreneurship. So that's why the incubator is there. It is supporting you for 2 years. In 2 years, you are able to you are getting a place to work in. It's the power of your idea. You're connected to venture capital network. So somebody will invest in it. You may have to put some portion of money if you want, but there are others who are willing to. And remember that you can, any innovation happens with a team of people. So you have to find 3 or 4 people who can come together to create that startup. And when you do that, it no longer becomes as risky as it was in several years ago. Now, let's say, for example, 2 years down the road, you have run into financial problems or crunches and so on. There is, we are giving grants, for example. So it is not a loan. It's not a money that you have to return back. So these systems which are being put in place are, you can give grants, and it's like you are betting your future. So people take equity in your startup, and they believe that if your startup succeeds, then this is going to grow, and out of that growth, they are going to get the money. So they are willing to invest upfront and take that risk from there. I mean, whoever is putting money is willing to put that risk. So it's not your family member who's now putting. There are many people from outside who are putting that money, but they are willing to take that risk because this is the startup world that we are living in, and this is the opportunity. So it is no longer as risky. Now, I want to add one more point. If in 2 years, if it doesn't succeed, if you apply for a job, you will get a better job than when you had applied 2 years back. Why? Because you have gone through the grind. You have gone through what innovation is all about. You have been a CEO, the chaprasi in your entrepreneur unit. You have been the communication guy. You have been the problem solver. Because the startup world is like everything. You need to be everything. And so that experience and that knowledge is very valuable today to corporates. So they will value this more. They are increasingly valuing. If you have put 2 years in this, today I'm hiring people who have failed in startup world in the Niti Aayog, right? And why I'm doing that? Because I say, oh, you know what a startup is all about. I want people who know what a startup is all about, because I want to become an innovative organization. So I think, all of this mindset change is required, and you should not feel that this is not meant for me and so on. Of course, have a plan, have a financial plan, a business plan, and all of that. You should have all of that. You can't just jump into it and say, where is the money coming from? If you walk into it without thinking and without a plan, of course, chances are that you may not succeed. But then think about it. And if you are interested and you have an idea, great ideas are coming out from the rural community of our country.
Thank you, sir. We are kind of running short of time, so I have 2 quick questions and then we'll wind up.
Yeah.
One of the questions is, there is a general notion that STEM jobs usually drive the economy. But the humanities are as important. So how does the Atal Innovation Mission also go beyond STEM to become STEAM or STREAM, as the new terms are coming up?
No, so Atal Innovation Mission is not at all saying that you have to be technology oriented. Atal Innovation Mission focus is be problem solvers, be innovators. And innovation can happen in process, it can happen in product, it can happen in technology driven, it could be business led innovation, it could be service led innovation. Innovation spans the entire spectrum. You leverage technology for the purpose of innovation. Let's say you are an artist, right? And you are a sculptor, and you are in fine arts, or you're a writer, or you're a poet, or you're a prose, and so on and so forth, or you're a painter. How do you leverage the technology medium for extending your reach, right? That's where innovation comes in, because there are many painters and many sculptors and many artists who the world never comes to know. Now, if you leverage technology for the purposes of reaching out your innovation, your artistry, your capability to the rest of the world, lo and behold, you are able to create a huge market. From the slums of Dharavi, we are having suits being stitched by tailors for some of the finest names in the world, in Europe and US and so on. And it is going because these people have the craft, the ability. They are also able to bring frugality of pricing structures. And so I know of this big success story where somebody has, where the tailor has some very exotic design of suits and so on, because Indian design has always been very, very creative, right? Various colors and so on and so forth. And now that's become a huge industry for him. I mean, through the internet, all the designs come. He does customized design and customized tailoring and customized suit creation for the market. And so you have a huge opportunity. So I think art, science, we all believe that, and we encourage. When we look at innovation teams, we say, bring someone who brings the aesthetic part. Design thinking is about not just the functionality of the feature functionality of the product, but the ease of use of the product, the representation of the product, the ease of being able to add new modularity and functionality. So why is the iPhone such a big hit still compared to many other smartphones in the market? That's because of the aesthetically pleasing design. That's because of the user interface. Today, there is a whole branch of technology, which is not technology, learning, which is happening, which is called human computer interface. Georgia Tech is conducting a course, and Carnegie Mellon is conducting a course. And this course requires you to have arts background, psychology background, industrial engineering background, and computer background. So the course actually encompasses all of this and trains people in all of these four aspects. So arts has become an integral part of innovation. And I think people should read this book on the fuzzy and the techie. It's a great book where a techie's world is very clearly well defined, right? Border conditions exist. That's why most of the engineers, they're given exams alone. They are not asked to work in groups. In the management world, it's a fuzzy world. But real world is a fuzzy world. The boundaries are not so clear. So how do you operate in a situation where the boundaries are not so well defined? Those who have done physics and maths, you will know that you say, assume that the slope has this gradient and this, etc., etc. In reality, no slope has that particular gradient. It is, having all friction. You say, assume a frictionless surface and solve the problem. In reality, there is no frictionless surface, right? And that's where art, science, and engineering all combine together.
Great. One last question before we move to your closing remarks. Technology, one of the aims of technology and innovation is to bring in inclusion, bring in equity in the society. Have you come across any success stories in the ATLs where we have been able to achieve this?
Yeah, we have a number of success stories of ATL students. We have, for example, some of the best innovations coming from places like Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh, from Sikkim, from Meghalaya, from Andaman Islands, and so on. And these are students, so not necessarily from the mainstream Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, and so on. You are having some of the best innovations come from there. And not only that, some of our best startups are coming up from the rural places. And why is that happening? It happens because when you articulate a problem very clearly, the solution also presents itself very clearly. And people who live that problem appreciate the problem so much that they are able to find the solution for that problem. And they are bent upon finding the solution for the problem. A person in a rural or a coastal district, if they are finding a problem to sell their product or to reach across to the market, they will solve that problem because they can see clearly that problem. And so they leverage digital technologies and so on to be able to do that. if they're having a water management problem. For example, in Thoothukudi, a girls' school student, they created a solar panel IoT-based irrigation management system for the farmers, the girl students between grade 8 to grade 10. And their fathers and parents are all farmers in that coastal district. They suffer this problem every day of water not being available, or suddenly it becomes very hot, electricity goes off, etc., etc. So they put all these three things together: solar panel, IoT based irrigation management, precision agriculture. And so you will find many success stories in the Atal Tinkering Labs, as well as in the Atal Incubators and New India Challenges. Many of the challenges we have launched are purely for addressing the needs of rural India and tier 2, tier 3 cities. For example, we launched a challenge on water management. How do you have water management? There are so many sources of pollutant water. How do you detect that source of pollutant water? And then how do you solve that? Things like that.
Great. We'll now move to your closing remarks, sir.
Well, my closing remark is this is your time of opportunity. India is at a watershed moment. The Y2K industry, in year 2000, we had the Y2K problem. And that problem got resolved by Indian IT and ITES capabilities. But I think what happened at that time was the world woke up to the power of Indian IT and Indian IT enabled services. And that ushered in a revolution in our IT, ITS industry. And today it is one of the fastest growing, biggest industries of the world, with giant names like TCS, Infosys, Wipro, and so on and so forth, right? I joined TCS in 81 when it was only 400 people. Today it is 450,000 people. So just in your own career, you have seen this phenomenal growth. Similarly, the COVID-19 crisis has shown the power of startups in India. In fact, when we launched a search for solutions for addressing the COVID-19 crisis, which is preventive and assistive solutions, and even if they have curative solutions, we got 1,500 solutions from the startup community. We didn't get it from large companies and large industries. We got it from the startup community because they were very agile. They already were working on solutions. They saw the opportunity and they sprung on it like this, right? And they pivoted many of their solutions, AI-based solutions, IoT-based solutions, to see how it can address the COVID-19 crisis. So I think we are at a watershed moment in our history where the power of Indian startups is going to drive developments and advancements of India into the next century. The power of entrepreneurship, the power of social innovation, the power of commercially driven innovation. So it is a world of innovators and job creators. And we have everything going for our country. We have the demographic dividend. We have an educational system which is being supported actively by the government. We are having very progressive policies. We are having a fast growing economy, and we are having technology which is becoming accessible to us and affordable to us. So we have the opportunity to make an impact. I want everyone who is in the call, the teachers, the students, the principals, how do you encourage this and how do you make this happen so that we can create the Atmanirbhar Bharat of our dreams?
Thank you, sir. It was a very, very inspiring and thought-provoking session. Thank you for spending your time with us. I'm sure our audience have several questions which are unanswered, so we'll be writing to you with those questions.
Very happy to answer any questions. Please send me that, and maybe we may have one more session some other time.
Definitely. Thank you, sir.
Willing to listen to it.
Definitely, we'll have one more session, sir. So thank you everyone for joining in. Next week, we have another interesting session. The session is going to be by Ms. Kamala Mukunda, who is the author of the book, What Did You Ask at School Today? She also teaches in the Center for Learning in Bangalore. So do join in next week at 7 p.m. Thank you, sir, once again for being with us, and thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you.